Okay, so here's an example. I've got a budget constraint, income's 100, price of X is 8, price of Y is 4. You can look at the intercepts, confirm to yourself that I did those correctly. And then I've got some representative and difference curves. Remember, they're everywhere dense. And so my question to you is, take some time, look at that. Based on the information, if I know we're at either A, B, or C now, which of these points are we at? Take a second, pause, think about it, and give me an answer before we move on. Okay, so are we at A, B, or C? Well, we know it's C. That's where utility is maximized. And we know at utility maximization, at a utility maximizing bundle, what we're willing to pay, our marginal rate of substitution, is exactly equal to what we have to pay, the price ratio. Remember, the marginal rate of substitution we all can also think of as how valuable X is relative to a Y. So at the utility maximizing point, which in this graph would be C, at that point, what an X is worth to us relative to Y is exactly equal to what we have to pay for it. So the question is that true? The question says here, at our current bundle, our marginal rate of substitution is 3. And at our current bundle, so that means we're willing to give up, we're willing to pay 3y for 1x. And what we have to give up, how much do we have to give up? An x costs us $8, a y costs us $4. And so if we want to buy an x, we have to stop buying 2y. So we're willing to pay 3y for 1x. We have to pay 2y. We are not. Those things are not equal. We are not at point C. We know we're not maximizing our utility. So where are we? We're at a point where what an x is worth to us is more than we have to pay for it. If something's worth more than we have to pay for it, we'd be happier if we bought more of it. So we're not at our utility maximizing bundle. We're at a point where buying more X would make us happier. So just looking at the graph, we can see it's got to be A, not B. Because we're at a point where additional X's would actually move us to higher indifference curves as we move along the budget constraint. Whereas if we were at B and we reallocated spending along the budget constraint, we would start moving to lower and lower indifference curves. So graphically, we can just look at it and say, we must be at A because we're at a point where an X is worth more than we have to pay for it. But remember, sort of more conceptually, that the marginal rate of substitution, it's the slope of the indifference curve. It's showing I could give up this much y if you give me that x and be just as happy. And so we're at a point, let's say we're at A and we have 15y and 4x. And let's say we get one more x. This is saying what the marginal rate of substitution of 3 is saying I am willing to pay 3y. I'm willing to give up, if I'm at point A, I'm willing to move to point D and be just as happy. You give me one more x, I'm willing to give up 3y for it. What I'm willing to pay is shown by the slope of my budget of my indifference curve. On the other hand, looking at my budget constraint, if I want to buy another x, I only have to give up 2y. If I want to buy that fifth x and I had 15y, I only have to give up 2y. That's what I have to pay. From point A, I'm willing to give up the slope of my indifference curve. I'm willing to give up 3y to get an x and be just as happy. I only, to be able to afford that x, looking at my budget constraint, I only have to give up 2y. If I do that, you can see I'm going to be happier. it looks all sort of complicated, and consumers, of course, don't do that. They don't say, oh, I want to be where my marginal rate of substitution equals my price ratio. Consumers say, hey, I'm walking to the store and I'm willing to pay, I want that X, I'm willing to give you 3Y. And they say, hey, you only need to give us 2Y. Like, really? I'm willing to give you 3Y? I only have to give you 2Y? Let's do that and I'm going to be happier. That's what they're doing. We're just drawing this model that shows what they're doing so that we can use this model to predict consumer behavior and explain consumer behavior. They're not thinking about this model. They're just saying, it's worth more to me than I have to pay. Marginal benefits greater than marginal cost. Bring it. Right? And so that's how we know that they're at point A, where what they're willing to give up and be just as happy is more than what they have to give up given their income. And if it's worth more to you than you have to pay for it, you should buy more and you can become happier.